Well, the cops is killing us, the politicians ain't feeling us, celebrities just trying to win a bag or get a ring. But if you really want to break up the police like Sting, you gotta preach to the choir so they know what to sing. This is the Preach to the Choir podcast, a show about personal finance, racial economic inclusion, about the racial wealth divide, how it affects culture, how culture affects the racial wealth divide, with your host, Aleya, a certified financial planner and accredited financial counselor.
Counselor,
yes.
I could counsel
And
you on your
Dedrick Asante-Muhammad, the Chief of Membership Policy and Equity at MCRC, and me, Dialect.
And you.
I do some stuff too. I just wrote an article for Teach for America. You can go check it out. I'm the Director of Pedagogy at Pockets Change, and we're here to do our thing. Preach to the Choir is part of the Race and Wealth Network.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in.
What's up, Dedrick?
I know this is my age, but I love that break up the police like Sting. I've heard you say that before. That's beautiful.
For our younger folks, Sting, the singer you may have heard of, put out the Red Light, Roxanne and all that, he was part of a music group called The Police.
Yeah.
And then they broke up so that he could do a solo.
Wow. That was a deep cut.
Was it? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I feel that. Wow. Oh man, it has been a while since you've done a preach.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back, Dedrick. It's been a while since we've had you on.
You have a whole different title.
Yeah, you have a whole different title.
Yeah, a whole different title. Been in my house for about a year straight, but got a new shirt, so I could do some, new outfits. Sure. No one else is going to see them. So
there we go. I know. I'm like, okay, focus from the what? The shoulders up now. There we go.
Because people are trying to start flexing about going outdoors again, I put on a pair of jeans for the first time in months, and it felt weird.
It does. It's like, wait, it's not stretchy.
Someone described it as hard pants. I was like, yeah, I haven't worn hard pants in a really long time.
Yes, I am wearing my pajama bottoms right now.
Oh my God. Okay. So today, because Dedrick is here, we're talking about the racial wealth divide. Right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're digging deeper into
We're digging deeper.
Usual.
Well, and the thing is, so much has happened in the last year with the racial wealth divide. We've had the huge Black Lives Matter uprisings. We've had the movement being pushed forward. And today we want to talk about, has the racial wealth divide been co-opted?
Yeah, because it's become a little more popular.
Yep.
The politicians mentioned it.
A lot more popular.
Yeah,
It's been part of presidential campaigns. There's committees about the racial wealth gap. People just throw that phrase around like everybody knows what it means now, right?
It's always funny because you can tell the difference between someone who really researched it and someone who looked at first page of Google, because they'll say the racial wealth gap still instead of the racial wealth divide. A reminder for folks, the reason why it was renamed the divide instead of the gap is that the gap implies that this was something that was natural. That's just like a phenomenon. It's like, oh, it's a gorge that just happened in the middle of the earth.
We'll be able to, fill in.
Yeah, but it's a divide because divide is an active verb. We push.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people still, most people I think still use the whole racial wealth gap language. But, one thing I found interesting is, back in the day when I was looking up racial economic inequality, everything that would come up would be about income. If anything came up, it would be about income. Mm-hmm. And now when I was like, oh, what is the income inequality right now between blacks and whites, Latinos and whites? And I put in racial income gap. What comes up is a series of articles on the racial wealth gap, the racial wealth divide. It just shows how much things have shifted into what's popular in the press. In terms of framing, it's like this whole, and not understanding those are kind of different things that are related to racial economic inequality. But
yeah,
that's actually really, I feel like that's progress,
well,
right?
It's such a double-edged sword, though. Well, I guess that's what we're here to rap about today.
Yeah,
right?
okay, yeah. Because the thing about income, the focus on income before, just people just need to make more money. If you give people more money, then they'll be able to build wealth and things like that. And I think all the stats around the racial wealth divide prove that income doesn't lead to wealth, because it doesn't take into account all these factors. And so the fact that people are understanding that there's a difference between the two and one doesn't lead to the other is a big move forward, I think.
It is, but I think you're giving them more credit, because what I'm concerned is that they're just they're still conflating income and wealth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now saying wealth, and before they said income and forgot wealth, right?
And they forgot wealth.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So they didn't connect the two. They just replaced one with the other.
Well, and a lot of
a
lot of the argument against it also has not really changed too much materially. It used to be, Well, what are you talking about? People of color, black people in particular, they can make income like other people. They're just bad at money, so that's why that they're not seeming to do well.
Right.
And now when we share the racial wealth divide stuff, they're like, oh, see, it's that they're historically bad at money.
No, I think it's a really good point. Like, if people use new language to continue their same position, right? Because the system works. It's just black or Latino people doing something bad with income or wealth. Okay, if you want to say wealth, fine. Blacks and Latinos do something bad with wealth, right? But, I think one concern I have also is that, it's some of my friends who in the racial wealth gap, racial wealth divide field are like, let's not focus on income so much, let's focus on wealth. But the income inequality hasn't really bridged either, right? Like, it's still, blacks and Latinos still make about 60-something cents on every dollar that white makes in terms of income, right? Now, they have much less in terms of wealth, but I also, and we'll get into this a little bit, is I'm concerned that as everybody's embracing the racial wealth divide, racial wealth gap, that they will do what they did with racial income inequality and think it's like a magic word, just like abracadabra. Like, if you say it enough, that means the magic happened and it's solved, versus that it actually is, getting addressed. Because I didn't want people just to talk about the racial wealth divide. I wanted them to talk about it so we could bridge it. And that's the really hard part.
Yeah, I'm completely blanking on who was saying this. I forget if this was an article or just social media, but there was this mention about how politicians are using the phrase, the word systemic, and just think like the phrase systemic, anything systemic, racism and all that, but without actually referring to the systems themselves.
Specific systems themselves.
Which is funny because, like,
good point.
You and me, and I guess you're much more involved in policy than we've been, but like, as lay people, we can be like, hey, these systems, and we mean like several things, and it's cool and all. But when you're a politician, like that's you're in the system. Your job is to do you can't just be like they. It's not they. It's you.
That's a really important point that they're talking about systemic racism. These people of the system that is maintaining systemic racism are like saying yes, and we're going to solve systemic racism like it's an outside thing. Versus we are representatives of the system, so we have to change the system we are in. Right? That's a really good point.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a artsy related thing. It's scary because people try to say that we're living in idiocracy, and now more and more I'm like, is it the Hunger Games? I think it's the Hunger Games.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, when it comes to things like co-opting a phrase like the racial wealth divide, and politicians like putting themselves outside of the thing they're actually in, it does feel like, oh, now we all have this common enemy that's over here. It's the racial wealth divide. It's income inequality. It's whatever the like du jour of the day is, right?
Du jour of the day, yes.
Of the day of the day is, yeah. But it is whatever that hot phrase is like, no, this is our big enemy over here. And this is the enemy that is going to galvanize like POC to vote for me. So I'm going to say it a bunch, right? And is this really where the co-opting happens?
Well, I agree with you, although I blanked out a little bit because you're saying du jour. I started thinking of what would be a good thing, and maybe and business people out there, if you want to start a business, Dijon du jour, it would be a different mustard of the day.
Mustard of the day.
Send it up subscription.
New business idea,
Back to
everybody.
the topic at hand.
One of these examples of co-optation that you all brought me to awareness of, and I even forget how we got into the conversation. I think y'all brought me awareness of this, right? Was this Apple Black Unity Watch?
Oh, yeah. You're watching that?
We saw an unboxing video, one of those tech unboxing videos. We were trying to I hadn't seen the ones where they open up 80 boxes before. So I was like, let me see, what is the deal with this? We were watching this cat who was doing a tech unboxing video, and I think it was supposedly like, who knows what's inside?
It was, yeah.
Clearly, it was
sponsored. It was the first thing they opened. It was like at the bottom of the pile. He was like, I picked this one.
Yeah.
And he pulls it out, and he was like, Apple has this Black Unity watch they put out for Black History Month.
It was a Black Unity YouTuber, so it wasn't like, oh, it's just this random person who's like, oh, I'm not black, but I got a Black Unity watch. Like, I'm pretty sure they
found like big black unboxing influencer, and they sent him the Black Unity watch.
I would love to be the big black boxing influencer. That's very cool. It's kind of like big black boxing, whatever that was on MTV. Yeah, the big black boxing influencer.
Yes, we have all all sorts of business ideas here at Preach to the Choir. Please go out there and start your LLC. Don't make it an LLC.
But again, I think, it does show the kind of shift at least in framing things, right? Where like I think Apple's the biggest corporation in the world right now in terms of money or something like that, has a Black Unity Watch, right?
Yeah.
While, a few years ago, that would have been considered too divisive to have, and they used the Marcus Garvey kind of famed red, black, and green flag that when I was growing up was a real symbol of Black radicalism, right? Only like real Black radical groups would have the red, the black, and the green up, and now Apple is putting this up, a Black Unity Watch that, I guess it's supposed to be something about the George Floyd moment, and they say they're going to give some money, though they're not really clear what percentage of the money is going to go to some mostly Black nonprofits, but it did cause a reaction that I thought was pretty funny on Twitter. But, what's y'all's opinion on kind of corporate Black radicalism?
Well, I like it. You're like, it's going to mostly Black nonprofits. I was like, what, you mean something that's like run by you and me? It's just like people who's running these nonprofits and they're going to get this money from Apple. Yo, it messed me up that they were like, we put the inscription on it. They had the the red is for the blood, green is for the land, black is for the man thing. I was like, y'all did all, I didn't even know that it was okay to tell white people that. It was like, for them, it was like reading hieroglyphs. They're like, I don't believe this. But it's another reminder of how much Black stuff, well, really all people of color stuff that used to be intra-group. It used to be stuff where like only if you were down, only if you were not of the ethnic group, you grew up in the neighborhood and that's why you knew. Now it is completely out there and these corporate folks can speak as woke as possible. Like having the real inscription and having the real colors and all that sounds like you're being pretty real. So it's like a scarier okie doke because especially like older folks, people who are older generation than us, they're like, wow, Apple really stepping up, right?
Right. Well, and it looked kind of fly.
I'm trying to be nice.
It was nice.
They're good at design. That was their whole thing. Was they were like, hey, what if computers had color? And that was like their opening thing.
Right. No, for sure. Well, and I think it is a scary thing. I remember a couple years ago we did a show on we do our annual boycotting show, and I think a lot of the things that we talked about were these corporations like standing up, right, for Black Lives Matter, like Nike featuring Colin Kaepernick and Serena Williams, and
putting money into them.
And putting lots of money into them, and like, what does that mean, right? What does that mean when a corporation like Nike does that? Does that mean they're part of the movement, or does that mean they're like following a trend? They're like, oh, we need to like get this market.
Well, don't forget when Pepsi ended racism, so
Oh, there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I almost forgot about that. Was that the last Black Lives Matter?
This is some years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Pepsi thing? That was like 2016, 2017.
Yeah. I forget who the celebrity was, but
Kylie Jenner.
Well, she's like a grizzled veteran now.
Yeah.
She's been doing this a long time.
Yeah,
ago.
that was a rookie mistake she made for doing that commercial.
Yeah. Actually, you bring a good point that, again, I think we all recognize appropriation isn't new, but that, they did this kind of Black Lives Matter, Black rebellion against police brutality appropriation. It blew up in their face a little bit in 2016 with that Pepsi commercial, but now we have a much broader one that, is, that's bigger. I mean, the design, the red, black, and green design, to me, reminded me of cross colors, right? Because in the 80s and 90s, if only a Black company would have a red, black, and green, design on it. And even then it was sometimes people were like, well, are they selling out by getting corporate dollars to do this red, black, and green stuff? But at least it still, was a symbol of Black-owned companies. And I think even I remember hearing the late 60s riots, some Black business owners would put up red, black, and green on their stores. They would put up a sign like Soul Brother to so when there were rebellions after King's assassination, people would say, well, this is a Black store. I'm not going to burn this down. I'm going to burn the oppressor stores down. So it's interesting to me that something that, could be so radical. And now, Apple has been trying to use it to kind of show their, quote unquote, people critique wokeness, right?
Let me talk real quick about how authenticity is a thing about money. Before we started doing the show, we were just chopping it up and talking about this. And I mentioned how I found a record that I was on, a CD of mine that we used to sell for $10 out on the street, was in Europe, and cats were selling it for $75. And it's bigger money than the stuff. I don't have any connection to these people, and I don't know if they like my music. I don't think that they care about my music. I think they care about the fact that I'm super indie, which makes my thing super rare, which makes my thing super authentic. And if something is super authentic, then you can sell it to the people you really want money from. The thing about these watches in particular is like, it's not about Black people. It's not about us. That's why I'm like, I don't even think it matters to them how many of them they sell or like it becomes a thing. They send it out to these influencers who do this unboxing stuff and do other things. They wear it at the events, and then the white people, the general public, they want to buy stuff, go, wow. And then the Black influencers like, wow, they have the colors that are very radical and the inscription that is very real. And they say, wow, I'm in the presence of real Blackness. I'm gonna buy Apple. You know what I'm saying?
I'll watch, but I'll buy Apple.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the Twitter reactions, and you know, one of them I like so much is they show a picture of the watch, and then under it they show a picture of Pelosi and Schumer and some other commentators kneeling with their kente cloth, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's exactly right. It's like now the Democratic establishment, you can take race out of it, that has helped maintain racial inequality, will put kente cloth on, will do a Kaepernick kneel, same thing out of with the Apple Watch. And then another thing that I like, just think it's a little bit more the politics of it, it said, did we get these in our reparations gift bag? It's a picture of the watch, and it's like, oh, cool. And then that's kind of like, yeah, like, are we going to get this and some actual justice? And then just kind of a mean-spirited one that I thought was funny. It said, a picture of the watch, and it said, Steve Jobs did not go to hell for y'all to do this, you know? And like, I would say Steve Jobs is in hell, but I just do find it, you know, kind of taking corporate responsibility, how bad Apple is, and saying, you know, you all aren't about this. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, it's really tough because these things go all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking about, what's her name? Amanda Gorman, the poet laureate, who did this cover, talking about kente cloth, where she's dressed in kente cloth, but it was a Louis Vuitton kente cloth, which I was like, I'm not quite sure I know how to feel about that. I mean, like, good for the young poet to be able to get Louis Vuitton to consider these things, but now I'm scared that the local businesses who start creating their own kente cloth pieces and using African patterns, that they're going to get bought up.
Well, and I want to go to a song, and then I want to come back. I want to talk about Captain America. I want to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I want to talk about Ta-Nehisi Coates writing Captain America. I want to talk about the art and media that is, making these stories personal, making these stories both mainstream and relatable. And what does that mean for all of this, right?
Yeah, let's talk about these things. They're both mainstream, they're relatable. For our first song, we're going to Portland, Oregon, for an artist called Knowlegin, and his song, which is False Leadership. And we'll check you in a minute. This is the Preach to the Choir podcast.
Look around the crowd, I know the games. I don't know who goes and who should stay. This shit looking like a damn parade. Automatic fire gunplay. I've been dreaming about this my whole life. Bullets flying right between my sights. Conversation, no, nobody speaks. Same outfits every week. I'ma do something different, motherfucker. I'ma put a damn vest on, motherfucker. I'm a goddamn threat now, motherfucker. Go and shoot above the chest now, motherfucker. Hey, wait, let me explain. I got this shit in my veins. I want the money, the power, the fame. I want the blood to be spilled in my name. Hey, whoa. You think I'm a hostage? Fuck it, I'm right where I wanna be. I just put the mask on and I throw the flash out, and my team rolls up and unloads like we emptying a POD. Enough said, I'ma stick to the playbook. Hey rookie, won't you come with me? Let's take this over, become a family. Don't stand on the shoulders of who might bleed. Maybe I'm just diagnosed with the same damn shit as my own opponent. My enemies might take shots at me, but if they do, I can swear they won't live to own it. But we live in a place divided by sections. History says if you're causing attention, the GOV might come in clean and wipe you out like a damn infection. But I'm done trying to live by these fucking terms. I got a whole family that's so concerned. I might step back, watch a building burn, but across the street there's something else at work. He's saying more cash, I need it right now. Right now. Put it in the bag, Everybody fucking get down. Screw it, I'm not done. I pull out the shotgun, I slide to the left, creep up and I pop one. I'm sick of the dumb shit, I wanted to run shit. I'm taking all the money that you stole, headed off to the gunship. But I don't wanna say I did it because of money, but as soon as I saw an opportunity I was running. You can label me a fake, a fraud, a thief. I'm the only one who stood for your beliefs. Look around the crowd, I know the games. I don't know who goes and who should stay. This shit looking like a damn parade. Automatic fire gunplay. play. I've been dreaming about this my whole life. Bullets flying right between my sights. Conversation, no, nobody speaks. Same outfits every week. I'ma do something different, motherfucker. I'ma put a damn vest on, motherfucker. I'm a goddamn threat now, motherfucker. Go and shoot above the chest now, motherfucker. Hey, wait, let me explain. I got this shit in my veins. I want the money, the power, the fame. I want the blood to be spilled in my name. Hey, whoa, blood on my name. You think I'm a hostage? Fuck it, I'm right where I wanna be. Wanna be, wanna be, wanna be, wanna be, wanna be.
Yeah, that was Knowlegin from Portland, Oregon. And you could tell he's one of them cats that is an activist, is out there in the streets. And it's like, I'm seeing all these cats running in, like trying to co-opt these movements. So I figured that was a appropriate jam for what we're talking about here. Thank you, Knowlegin.
Yes, welcome back, everybody. We are talking about, has the racial wealth divide been co-opted? We are talking about how corporations have co-opted the movement or have tried to be a part of the movement or capitalize on the movement. And you know, when we were preparing for this show, something that came up was Ta-Nehisi Coates writing Captain America now and, you know, putting in the Tuskegee experiment, you know, analogs and things like that. And then...
Well, that wasn't creative.
Oh, that wasn't by him.
No,
okay.
that was some years ago. The whole black Captain America thing. That was brought up some... And this is the thing is that, I mean, it's fairly recent. It's not like they wrote it in the 60s when it, like...
Actually happened.
Yeah, when it happened in the comics also. That's where they said it.
Yeah.
It's a recent comic, which is also, I think, partially a product of this. And this is part of the good thing of like people have been seeding these things, these natural things into our art. It's one of those things where our superhero stuff in particular, right? It doesn't have to parallel us, but it needs to parallel some of the ways that things happen.
Right.
And when people naturally think about Captain America and how things went down in the 40s, it's a pretty easy explanation. Be like, yeah, I'm sure they would have experimented on black people then and not said anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a great
right? Since they actually did, right? Like,
It's like, oh, let's write in the stories. Well, and I think too, I wanted to bring up Falcon and Winter Soldier because it like goes hard and directly addresses a lot of the systemic stuff with these personal scenes of, you know, Falcon, a literal superhero, a literal Avenger, trying to get a loan at a bank and the banker wanting to take a selfie with him and being like, oh my God, it's you. And then saying, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
And mind you,
I haven't seen it yet. Like,
you spoiling.
That's a great clip. Actually, before we get to it, Falcon, just want to bring up, you know, it's interesting. I don't know if people talked enough about it, but the origins of Power Man, from Power Man and Iron Fist, I mean, that origin was him being tested on. He was a prisoner, a black man in prison, you know, tested on, then he breaks out of prison. He doesn't do any liberation movement type thing. He just kind of is a gun for hire, because that would be too, because I think we've talked about this in the past. If black people really had superpowers in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, probably today, and we really had some vigilante justice, there would be some really radical things where like police officers would probably be attacked, right? Like maybe institutions would be overthrown, and they don't want to go that deep in it. But I find that fascinating of using Falcon as kind of the superhero who still can't get a loan.
Well, can I also throw some old school stuff in there? Talk about times and how times don't change. When Power Man, Luke Cage as he's known now, first came out, that was also part of another cultural movement where people were trying to be more real about talking about these people. Like even when Black Panther, who was created by, you know, Stan and Jack, like most of the other characters, they were like, I want to be more diverse. I want to see the lives of people who have been oppressed like my people, as Jewish folks have been oppressed, but like in other ways. So they were reaching out. Falcon, in his origin, was a reformed pimp.
Falcon was? In this storyline.
You know Falcon was a pimp? That was his original origin?
No, that's interesting. No, because Power Man, you could tell the way he was dressed was so much of that black exploitation era type thing, you know. And again, the Black Panther, we might have mentioned this previously, it is interesting that at one point they wanted to call Black Panther the something leopard or something like that.
Yeah, the Black Leopard,
Black Leopard, because the Black Panther Party emerged just coincidentally as the same time as the Black Panther comic book hero. And Black Panther Party was way too radical for something that Marvel and them want it associated with one of their superheroes.
If I recall correctly, now we're getting really like some comic nerdy says we should get out for people from You Don't Read Comics and stuff like that podcast to come on. But if I recall correctly, for like 5 or 6 issues, they did call him the Black Leopard.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So,
wow.
Before people were like, that just
like,
doesn't roll off the tongue.
That's not a thing.
Yeah.
That's not
a friend of mine, Todd Burrows, wrote a book on the Black Panther and its origin right before the big movie came out. That is one of the better properly politically oriented books on Black Panther. So you can Google that, Todd Burrows, Black Panther, and see one of those writings on that.
Yeah, but the reason why I wanted to bring up Falcon and Winter Soldier in the sense of like, has the racial wealth divide been co-opted? Is it a good thing that stories are being told like this, or is this another okie doke? Like, hey, we're addressing it, we're bringing it up now, and everyone's aware of it, and good, that's it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like there is the malaise of information that's becoming part of the information age. It's like and this is why a lot of your activisty type folks get agitated, because it's like, well, we're gonna make everybody aware of it, and it's like, how much awareness can we do?
Yeah, it's all like breast cancer awareness. Like, how many times can you walk and run for people to be aware of breast cancer before we try and like eradicate it?
Yeah, but you see, at least breast cancer awareness, like if everybody was doing, and maybe that's what some people are arguing is happening now, the breast cancer awareness, all the runnings and stuff was at least to raise money to do research.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Cancer, right? Like, I don't think we even need to do much research. If people are raising a whole bunch of money to actually bridge the racial wealth divide, I think that would be a more interesting thing. Now,
well, the reason why I bring up breast cancer awareness is because there have been critiques that the movement is just about awareness and not actually about.
Well, and you're talking a lot about like Susan G. Comans, who are grifters, who like spend a lot of their time suing people and being very proprietary. And that is also what's happening within the racial justice movement. I mean, aside from just like these bigger fame things that we talk about, we see this rise of new celebrity activists. And there are a lot of people who have concerns and problems with the stuff they're doing, being like, hey, how many times can you get paid 5 G's to walk on a stage in front of white people and say, hey, white people, you're treating black people bad. And then they all clap and then we all go home. Right.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I think all of that can be an avoidance of the issue, right? Because whatever, some activist is making some money doing a Nike commercial talking about racial inequality. I mean, whatever, like you can critique it, but my primary thing is the issue being addressed? These corporations who are saying we're going to give $10 million or $1 billion to somewhere. But I mean, even in your own company, like, do you have like hirings at all levels that are racially equitable? Like, how much, like just the most basic thing that you really easily could do.
Right. Are all your POC like in the diversity and inclusion department, right?
I had a homie hit me up, a friend of mine who worked for an advertising company, was like, hey, so I'm talking to my company and we're trying to see what we can do, racial equity, black folks. You know any organizations of people that we would like to do? And I was like, sure, and I can give you a list of folks and tell you some things that they can do. And then he said, I went to the diversity meeting and it was all white people there. And then we talked about it and then they decided not to spend any money on it.
They probably felt really good talking about it.
Well, yeah, because they addressed it and they made themselves aware. Yo, it sucks because as an educator and with the work that we do with Brunch and Budget, I feel like we do a lot of awareness making, and I acknowledge and I understand that it's important. It is real to get an understanding of stuff, to get deeper understanding, just all of that. This is all important stuff. It's part of the process. And one of the things that I think is the real okie doke is that doing this one step thing and not the rest of the steps makes it look like all of the steps suck. And it makes it look like what we do is window dressing. When we're saying, well, what we're doing is actually window dressing, come and look at the stuff under the window. We have to clean the windows before we get under there.
Well, the trickiest part...
Great point. Like, it reminds me of, like people critical of Sharpton. When I was working with Sharpton, like he would highlight, I think, an important point that the protest is not meant to solve a problem. It's meant to bring light to a problem that still needs to be resolved. So, like, you shouldn't be just celebrating. Yes, we have so many protests, and that's good if it's bringing light and then it's making action occur that addresses the problem. So it's not like, oh, protests are bad. No, protests are good. It's just one small step of, a larger process of addressing something. And that's kind of think, it's one small step to start everybody say racial wealth divide. But now you take further steps in getting a better understanding on it. Are people really willing to take action? Are people really willing to do the redistribution of resources that is required to address this racial economic inequality that's at the foundation of our political economy? That's the harder work. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do the beginning, but we just got to keep working to the end.
Well, I think that one of the reasons why we are stuck at the beginning is actually addressed in Dialect Show, Museum of Dead Words, right?
Oh, is it?
It is, yes. Well, this
Everything
whole
is in
idea
baseball,
of the
Museum of
phrase racism and the word racism and how...
Wait. Let Dedrick say, he said everything is addressed in my show. So you can say
That's
everything.
fine. I said everything of substance is addressed in his Museum of Dead Words show. But go ahead.
We're going to put it on as a testimonial.
Say your thing.
Just to your example, right, about like a bunch of white people on the diversity committee sitting in a room and addressing racism and talking about it. It's your whole thing about racism where it's gone from this like racism is a systemic thing to racism is an indictment on me as a person, right? So people don't want to be racist. White people in particular don't want to feel like they're racist or have any implication that they personally are racist. And so we keep staying at the beginning because the awareness part of it is the part that they're like, oh, I feel good now. I feel good about it. I don't feel racist personally because I talked about it. I addressed it. I'm on the diversity committee. I have all the optics around this and I'm still benefiting from the systemic racism that exists. So what do I need to change?
Yeah, and let me also add in, that's also the co-optation, because they're co-opting a challenge to a racist capitalist system that maintains and continues racial economic inequality, and they're co-opting it into a individual personal thing, right? Like, so that racism is not a change of a whole political economy, but it's a change of my personal attitude or how I individually behave, which is a very liberal mainstream thing that like your individual goodness reflects the good of society versus no, you have systems that can create great evil, even if there's like, a nice person at the top of it, because the system is itself exploitative in these types of things.
Right. And then all of a sudden it becomes about their feelings and like how they feel about it versus actually changing things. And this is why we keep rotating back to the beginning until we get past that.
I have a question that may be a little bit out there for the two of y'all. Do you think that it's possible when we're talking about, making awareness and not really changing things? I wonder how much of this co-opting is kind of accidental in that it follows, because we're talking a lot about art, right? We talked a lot about activists and artists and everybody and putting it all together, Falcon Winter Soldier. In art that has been commodified, right? It's all about catharsis. At the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're going to get some catharsis. I don't know spoiler what's going to happen.
It came out today,
It's going to be, you're telling us when we're shooting the episode. But it's going to be cathartic and it's going to feel good at the end.
It is. Because they need to complete the story, right?
And I think that we have set up, or they have set up expectations where folks have expectations about these things, where when we go in the room and we talk about this, the expectation is catharsis. So they get what they want out of it,
right?
But they don't have an understanding that in the real world things are more messy. When you talk about how parts of the thing are co-opted, I was thinking about hip hop and how rapping has become a very popular thing. And people talk about the power in rap. There is a lot of power in rap. As someone who's been a practitioner for nearly 20 years, there is way more power in the connectivity of hip hop, where we have all of the elements working together, all the learning styles, all the different viewpoints and perspectives. But when it comes to that single lens, you can be like, I bobbed my head to the beat and I listened to the rap and I agreed, and that was that, right?
Yeah, and you can just be done with it. Well, that the catharsis thing that you bring up, I think, is such a key part of why we have a hard time changing things, right? Because one, people don't want to give up the things they already have. We've also been told that everything we have has been earned, right? And that's been the narrative here, is like individuals and bootstrap, everything that I have, I earned. I'm self-made. Like for like people like Kylie Jenner to like be on a cover as the first self-made billionaire, right? That's the narrative that we all want to hear, and that's the thing we all want to believe. And so this catharsis that we're looking for, this like completion, is something that also allows people to like keep what they have and feel good about it.
No, that's right. Keep what they have, and even if you don't have much, keep at least the dream that you have that
Yeah.
you can be part of a system that promotes stuff. I mean, I think there's so we can spend a whole show on. I know this was brought up before, but Kylie Jenner being the first self-made billionaire. Like, what does that even mean? Like, if that's the model, that that is the first self-made millionaire.
One, it's
billionaire.
marketing, right?
Yes.
One, it's a marketing thing, you know, to like, okay, you know, I get it. But like, two, as we're talking about comic-y kind of stuff, I remember there was a self-made billionaire. It wasn't Batman or Iron Man. They both inherited their wealth. It was Lex Luthor.
Oh,
Lex
yes.
Luthor was a poor kid who had, I think, lazy, possibly drug-addled parents. And that enraged him, so he murdered them and then went off on his entrepreneurial path to become a billionaire and eventually president of the United States.
Okay, so you have to be a psychopath, is what you're saying.
I'll say you have to be. I don't say you have to.
Wow.
It helped Lex.
It helped him out. He
Helped
became
Lex.
president of the United States. Wow.
Yeah. Pete Ross was the VP.
So I guess in terms of like, whoa.
Yeah. Pete Ross was the VP, and Lana was married to Pete Ross. He was the
Wow,
vice president.
okay.
It was a whole
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
time in the comics.
So in terms of co-opting the racial wealth divide and just all of this, did this all happen so that white people could feel better about all of these systems existing?
You
Like,
think it's about feeling better? You think about I mean, to me, it seems like quelling, I guess if you mean by feeling better, quelling unrest and allowing commerce to continue as it goes.
there was this like peak of awareness, right? Where like diversity and inclusion consultants were overbooked. They like couldn't handle their books. I'm so curious now.
Yeah, we got more calls.
We got more
Yeah.
calls. We got more calls. We got more
Tons.
followers. We got more people being like, "Oh my God, thank you for all the work you've been doing." All of that kind of stuff.
A lot of the
right?
stuff that we would have to not have in our proposal, but would pull out during the workshop.
Like, surprise to racial wealth divide. It's like, no, they're asking for it, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, if those D&I consultants are still getting these calls, and you know, if that peak happens like at these movements and then kind of dies down again. We were listening to a podcast the other day about a Black sex worker advocate, and she straight up said, "The money is dry until another Black Lives Movement thing happens for us,
Well, just
and
look,
then we get money, and then we don't."
just look at the Asian stuff that happened. Just
Yeah,
like that was like got really.
stop Asian hate, and
People
then
learned AAPI for the
people
first time.
learned stories and like shared memes and all of this stuff, and
I feel like in terms of the money and support for that, that's kind of dried up already.
yeah,
I mean, I get the feeling that it's still probably higher than where it was a year and a half ago. I mean, I think there has been more money in racial equity stuff, more and more with Trump in office, period. Because like, people, liberals establishment didn't like the way Trump was talking about race. He was an easy person to highlight racial inequality. It wasn't like having Obama in the White House. It was
Right.
very hard for people to gel with this idea that we have deep racial inequality and we have a Black president. So I think the money's increased. It's not as high as it was at the height of post George Floyd murder, what have you. You know, there is some increases, but I also want to highlight a little bit the conspiracy kind of type thing about, you know, is this just being used to quell a disturbance? I mean, I don't think like people in a room are necessarily deciding that. I think that's how the system works. It's
Right.
like people see, okay, this is a hot topic, whatever it is. If it's patriotism during a war, grab it, right? If it's some type of politically correct white nationalism, we'll kind of grab it, right? If it's feminism, you know, we'll corporatize it, we'll grab it, we'll use it to sell a product. But then the people who are interpreting it are going to interpret it in a way that doesn't make you deal with the roots of the system, how deeply unequal society is, the radical changes for it. They're going to make it something that can be solved at the end of a commercial or at the end of a 30-minute show. You know, it's what helps maintain the system. Even if people aren't conspiring in the back, that's what they're doing. They're part of a system that does that.
I wonder if this is, as we're talking about how good or bad this thing is, I wonder if the big good thing of this is like there's an awareness stock market. You know, we talk about money and how stock market fell mad hard in 2008, but if you left the money in there, it's doing better because the stock market, like its floor, always increases over time. And I wonder if, you know, and this is something I find when I talk to young people now of all backgrounds. It used to be just, you know, when I talk to Black kids who are in a certain area where they have certain educators or, you know, communities where they have a lot of different backgrounds. But now I can go into a college. I taught at a college the other day where it was predominantly white kids there, and I started talking about the systemic issues, and they were like, yeah, and this thing too, and the other thing.
Wow.
So there is part of me, the heartened part of me, that's like, maybe the whole awareness stock market is rising, and it makes it so that even though people corporatize, because like, yo, the reality is that in America, with capitalism having the stranglehold it does, it's gonna latch on to everything. It's that kind of parasite, right? But if they have to latch on to this now, is that a good thing if it means that the general person is now aware of a lot of the baseline issues and doesn't have to be dragged to step two? We keep talking about how step one is becoming a dog and pony show, but if that has them there and they're
ready
and they're now like, okay, I'm open to that, does that mean that we have the opportunity now to really get them ready for step two and step three, and to go
the fact
further?
that they can be critical of step one instead of having to have it explained to them, right? Where it's already part of them, and they're like, okay, I know step one, I know how to critique it, and now I can move on to the next thing. That is, I mean, you're right. There are lots of young people who just like get it.
But and I think that's positive. But again, like, I look for measures of material change to really. I think if we just look at consciousness raising, I think we saw the civil rights movement, right? The mid 20th century civil rights movement did a lot to raise the consciousness around racial inequality. But we've seen in a lot of material ways, it hasn't done nearly as much as people would have expected.
Yeah. Well, let's go to a song, come to our conclusions.
Yeah, let's go to a song and then come back and then drop our final statements about where we're at. We're going to Fort Worth, Texas for a song from an artist named A-Roy, and it's about what everybody is jumping on, the bandwagon.
Bounce, bounce, bounce. Yeah. Let me show y'all how I swag right quick. Whatever the hell that means. Yeah. I take a look at hip-hop and I'm fed up with it. It's supposed to be about music, not this sucker shit. I ain't a hipster, a gangster, or a backpacker. I ain't even a rapper, I just get it cracking. But most of these MCs, man, they getting whacker. They keep my homies laughing, but still we let them pass. We ain't the gatekeepers, I ain't the best in this. But bitch, I've been listening since I learned to take a piss. And I've been studying since Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. I seen the cycles, from bass to bounce to crunk to this. Swag, or any word you claim to name the movement. It ain't a movement, just a bunch of dudes that's dressing cool. Y'all should've stayed in school, got a degree like me. So when you fall off, you won't have to go back home to sleep. Back to your mama's couch, you write that life I ain't about. I seen the things you trying to do, you ain't even on the right route. I hear the same old songs, I see the same old styles. If one more hop on, it's gonna collapse to a pile. Cause I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. With them same old songs and them same old styles. If one more hop on, it's gonna collapse to a pile. Cause I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. The personalities among rappers today are so weird to me. Most of y'all are finicky, so I just tend to let you be. At times I'm critically acclaimed, but feeling criminally insane. Cause I don't recognize nobody out here real as me. See, rap is my religion, guess I take it too serious. I get this is a business, but it needs some criteria. Tired of people getting rap points for being cool. That's like assuming a dude is smart just cause he wears a suit. I try not to address these lanes unless they step into my space. Talk that shit up in my face, then I'll put you in your place. All this Twitter beef is weak, I ain't even from the street. But if somebody got an issue, be a grown-up, lose the tissue. You doing all that crime, man, while we supplying, man. We like the Greeks from the wire, we conspiring daily to build our business with the right people. Dodging liars, snakes, and weasels, cause their hearts are full of evil. Don't be salty, cause I call it like I see it. Some of y'all is faulty, no, I wouldn't wanna be it. The reason is you're scared to be yourself, but that's all that you can be. Stop trying to be somebody else. I hear the same old songs, I see the same old styles. If one more hop on, it's gonna collapse to a pile. Cause I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. With them same old songs and them same old styles. If one more hop on, it's gonna collapse to a pile. Cause I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. I swear, you writers about to break the bandwagon. Don't be mad cause you see me doing my thing. Nobody told you watching will put you at the top of the game. You measure success by your watch or the rocks in your chain. I measure mine by how many copies I got in the game, or how many girlies is jocking me, man. They love the way I match my polos with my fitted, sipping Henny, getting twisted. Who is it? That 6'4" nigga gifted. He make a conscious record sound so cool the way he spit it, and he also got them bangers for the whip. Man, really? The boy is so damn brilliant. He bout to make a killing, but I swear, homie, for me it's in the feeling. I'm never ever willing to sell my soul along with them show tickets. I do this for my homies out the view, for my frat at TCU, for all the ladies looking cute, for Funky Town and spit music. Whatever your flavor, we can do it. Why you think we call it that? We were around it, so holla back. I hear the same old songs, I see the same old styles. If one more hop on, it's gonna collapse to a pile. Cause I swear, you right is about to break the bandwagon. I swear, you right is about to break the bandwagon. With them same old songs and them same old styles. If one more hop on, it's gonna collapse to a pile. Cause I swear, you right is about to break the bandwagon. I swear, you right is about to break the bandwagon.
Yeah.
A-Roy out of Fort Worth with the Bandwagon.
I didn't know we were adding a dance segment. I should have brought my girls up here and they would have had a good time.
Yo, it's funny because like, it felt like it's not like a dance joint because he's so serious on it, but like the beat box. It's always fun to notice when Pam, because Pam is not one of those people who notices the lyrics first always, but when they catch her, then she like gets this other face. It's like, wait, I gotta listen intently. So thank you, A-Roy, for picking Pam to listen intently to that.
That was good.
It's like I was saying with the hip hop thing, right? The one problem with the bandwagon of like, oh, everybody is just doing this one part of it, is it makes it look rote. It makes it look obvious. It makes it look boring. It makes it look like something you don't even want to necessarily get into. And as I know, before the break, it was like, oh, maybe there's good things. But my realist concern is that folks are going to think it's ineffective. As a hip hop educator, I've seen a lot of people use hip hop, I don't know, accoutrement to make their class more exciting. Like a lot of times people will add a rap thing to it. And it'd be like, I made a rap song for you to learn about the 50 states. And that's not hip-hop education, that's rhyming mnemonic, right? Using rhyme is useful in small ways, but hip-hop pedagogy, hip-hop education is actually much deeper and does a lot more for you. But what's shown is that you do this thing, it's mildly effective, it's fine, throw a couple of bucks at it, and then leave it alone. Don't let it do more so that it can actually change things.
Yeah. Well, okay, it's the end of the show. Are we gonna have some catharsis, or are we gonna... Is that what's next? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, and I think our conversation has been getting at this whole thing about that a lot of this is catharsis, for the system to, make ourselves feel better about, even with the conviction of Derek, how do you say his last name? Chauvin?
I don't care.
Okay, exactly. Officer that killed George Floyd, I think that made some people feel better, but I think activists are out there, but what's really going to change in our criminal justice system? And I think, what's next is what was next, last year or, tomorrow or yesterday, is that now are we really going to bridge the unemployment inequality, right? That racially occurs, home ownership, wealth inequality, what does it take? There's, we did 2 or 3 years ago with the Institute for Policy Studies, 10 policy solutions to help bridge the racial wealth divide, right? Like, so, we need to continue doing that hard work. And if Apple's going to have an Apple Unity Watch, and I would love for some listener to let us know. I can't tell if Apple actually shut down the watch because so many people critiqued it, or if they actually released it. So if anyone has that information, please email or dialect and let us know if it was canceled. I see different blog posts on that. But the work is the same. And I think, what we have to be motivated to do is actually see the material concrete changes and not just have cool red, black, and green, cross-colored, inspired watches and shirts, but we actually see some Black, liberation occurring, or Latino liberation, or Native American, or whatever the case may be.
So how do we get to the point then where, because I think that the reason why a lot of this happens goes back to what people are and are not willing to give up materially, right?
Well, it's about all what you give up. The thing you just said about the cop getting convicted and thrown to jail, we've been talking about mass incarceration and the anti-carceral movement for a minute now. And now it's like, oh, it's okay if we just shove a cop in there too.
Right.
So it's
Just an example.
so that he can be sacrificed so that the system keeps on going.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like materially, it'll look like something's happening because we took someone and gave them some accountability, but all we do is process them through the same system that we're processing folks.
Well, it's interesting, like, because again, to materially to me would mean not a individual example of, but would mean as a whole, just like there are more individual examples of high-income Black people or, you know, whatever the issue is. But overall, do we see that material change occurring?
Well, the biggest thing that I see people most upset by or just like most resistant to is like just giving people things. You can't have universal basic income. You can't just give people money. You can't just give people housing. You can't just give people these things. People are so enraged by even the concept of welfare. Like, how do you get people over that hump of everything needs to be earned? You need to work hard for everything that you have.
And maybe we turn that corner a little bit with COVID. I don't know how long we're going to keep that, Tony, but where we have sent out a few $1,000 checks at different times throughout the year to help people during COVID, because people recognized there was something that was affecting people's ability to, you know, provide for themselves, and that the government should support them get through this. If we can have that same understanding that we have deep racial economic inequality, we have great concentrations of wealth, and that government needs to also help the average person get through these things and actually make this more of a redistribution of resources so we don't concentrate wealth so much. You know, that's what we're pushing for, you know, and we've got to keep doing the work we have been doing, and hopefully people think of new innovative ways to do some new work that can help push things forward.
I got a little bit of a conclusion, and it's only for one group.
I saw your face.
You saw me working it out.
Like in the shadows with his hat. Okay.
So, artists, because those are who I think we can really talk to about this thing. Artists, I have a question and an imploration for y'all. When you are making your art, you know that metaphor plays heavily into the thing that you do. What is your metaphor intended to make happen? What is the end result from your metaphor? Not what is it revealing, not what is it referencing, but what is the end result? And as we were talking about like Marvel stuff, I think about how the Black Panther movie and the Thor Ragnarok movie came out around the same time, and they were trying to do very different things. Black Panther was trying to show powerful, sustainable, self-efficacible Black people in a place in Africa, and they wanted to show images. They were willing to let go of a lot of the policy movement type of stuff with their kind of like fizzle out ending with the STEM thing.
Right.
Their metaphor was empowerment through imagery versus Thor Ragnarok, which I think affected me even deeper because their metaphor was about these people who had been oppressors learning that they can be refugees too. You know, there's a line that said like Asgard is a people,
not a place.
Right. And you know, the Maori director who made that, I'm like sure that that's something that his auntie or whoever told him growing up about his people. And I felt the metaphor there was so much active stuff going on there that I saw the parallels for me and my community and what I could do about it. So I asked you, I'm not saying one of those is worse than the other. I just was making an example of something that related to what we're talking about. So artists, I want y'all to be very specific and very intentional about what does the metaphor do? Not what does it highlight, but what does it do? What is the verb? That's all.
All right. That's
I like it.
You got to preach to the choir so they know what to sing.
There you go. You know what you're saying now.
Preach to the Choir is part of the Race and Wealth Network. We're on the Punch and Budget podcast as well. Feel free to hate us, rate us, debate us, get us on all of the stuff. We're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace.